How does a disaster begin without a sound? Not with fire, not with a wave, not with a collision that wakes the ship. Just a routine departure, a harbor channel, a ferry built for crossings so common they feel impossible to fear. March 6, 1987. The Herald of Free Enterprise leaves Zeebrugge. At the front of the ship, a steel door is left open. 4 minutes after reaching open water, the ferry rolls onto her side. This is the story of the Herald of Free Enterprise. The Herald of Free Enterprise is a roll-on, roll-off passenger ferry, a RoRo, a ship built for speed and repetition. Vehicles drive in, doors close, the crossing begins. Dover, Calais, Zeebrugge, Dover again. On this night, she prepares to leave Belgium for England. On board are roughly 500 people, around 459 passengers and 80 crew. Families on a discounted trip, workers heading home, friends over a weekend crossing. Below decks, the vehicle deck is a single open plane, cars and freight in metal rails, a space built to be filled and emptied again and again. Outside, the harbour is ordinary, cold air, black water, industrial light. Nothing looks dangerous. And that's the trap of routine. A RoRo ferry runs on assumptions that the ramp is raised, the locks are set, the doors are closed. At 6:05 pm, the lines are cast off. The ship begins to move. One certainty is missing. 6:05 pm. The ferry departs the berth in Zeebrugge's inner harbour. From a distance, it looks normal, a bright shape gliding through dark water. But at the bow, the inner and outer doors are still open. There is no alarm on the bridge confirming their position. No definitive signal forcing certainty. Only routine, only trust. The assistant bosun assigned to close them does not. The official inquiry records the detail plainly. He went to his cabin and fell asleep. Not from malice, from fatigue, from a system where the ship must keep moving. The Herald continues outward. She passes the inner breakwater. The harbour lights pull behind her. Around 6:23 to 6:24 pm, she clears the outer mole, the last barrier between harbour and sea. Propulsion increases. The ship gathers speed. Now the physics begin. With the bow doors open, the vehicle deck is exposed. Water enters low and fast, spreading across a flat surface. On a RoRo ferry, water doesn't stay still. It becomes a moving mass, sliding with every shift of the hull. Movement erases stability. As speed builds, more water enters. The deck slicks over. The ferry begins to list. Not violently, not like cinema, just enough to make bodies rebalance, enough to shift objects, enough to raise a question. Then the angle deepens. The stability is disappearing in real time, not from a storm, not from a rupture, but from an open doorway and a flat deck. Passengers still interpret the moment as routine, a hard turn, a brief malfunction, but recovery is already impossible. Within minutes, the Herald of Free Enterprise capsizes rapidly, rolling onto her side in shallow water near the harbour approaches. Witnesses describe the lights vanishing, a bright ship becoming dark. A bridge clock stops at 6:28 pm, a fixed point investigators later use to rebuild the timeline. From departure to capsize, less than half an hour. From open water to catastrophe, about 4 minutes. This is not a long disaster. Understanding arrives after it is already over. When a ship capsizes, the world reorganizes violently. Floors become walls, ceilings become floors, corridors become traps. In the dark interior, gravity becomes unfamiliar, pulling sideways, dragging bodies toward angles they were never meant to meet. The ferry is on her side, parts of the hull are flooded, other compartments hold air for now. And in those spaces, the survivors experience a silence that does not feel like peace. It feels like disbelief. Because nothing exploded, nothing announced itself. There is no cinematic rupture, only a sudden change in orientation, and the sound of water finding every gap. Some people climb, some crawl, some push against doors that no longer swing in the right direction. Some are pinned by weight, some are simply enclosed. Metal creaks, glass breaks in small bursts. Water slaps against surfaces that were never meant to be wet. The ship makes low structural sounds, not loud enough to be dramatic, but constant enough to be terrifying. Outside, the sea is cold and black. The air is sharp. The harbor lights keep shining as if nothing happened. Rescue does not begin with clarity. It begins with confusion. People on nearby vessels noticing that something is wrong, that a large shape has shifted in the water, that the lights have vanished. And then the alarm spreads. Helicopters, boats, divers, ropes thrown into darkness. Many are saved quickly, many are not. Because in an enclosed, flooded space, minutes do not feel like minutes. They feel like a narrowing, a shrinking pocket of air, a tightening hallway, a door that won't open, a voice that goes quiet. In disasters like this, the ocean doesn't need hours, it only needs access. When morning arrives, the scene is almost surreal. The ferry is still there, not vanished into the deep, but lying on her side in shallow water, close enough to the harbor that the world can stare directly at what happened. This is not a mystery of lost at sea, it is a disaster in plain sight. Rescue turns into counting, counting turns into names, names turn into absences. Official tallies will record 193 lives lost. The formal investigation will detail 188 confirmed fatalities. Different numbers, same truth. Hundreds went aboard and many did not return. And then comes the question that always follows the silence. How? The inquiry does not find a single spectacular failure. It finds a chain. A procedure dependent on one exhausted person. A bridge without a direct indicator. A culture that normalized risk as routine. A system that assumed the last check was complete because the last check was always complete until it wasn't. The code finds fault in individuals and it reaches upward into the company itself, concluding that the failure was not isolated, it was systemic. The language in the official findings is unusually blunt, describing a corporate culture infected with the disease of sloppiness. Not because one person fell asleep, but because the system allowed sleep to become fatal. One outcome of this tragedy will be structural. The formation of the Marine Accident Investigation Branch in 1989. A recognition that disasters like this require dedicated investigation, not just blame. Because blame is easy, understanding is harder. Some ship disasters feel like violence. A storm, a collision, a fire visible for miles. But the Herald of Free Enterprise is a different kind of tragedy. It is the tragedy of an open door, a disaster built from routine, from the quiet confidence that a system will do what it did yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. And it raises a colder idea that catastrophe does not always arrive as an event. Sometimes it arrives as an assumption. The assumption that someone closed the door, the assumption that someone checked the signal, the assumption that the ship, the company, the procedure was too practiced to fail. This is the liminal edge of modern life, where safety is not a thing you see, but a chain of invisible actions you trust without thinking. Until the day the chain breaks silently, and you only notice when gravity changes direction. By morning, the harbor looks normal again. The water reflects the same industrial lights. The channel remains. But for the people who survived and for the families who didn't get someone back, nothing is routine anymore. Because now they know a ship can disappear without sinking. A disaster can happen without spectacle. Sometimes the ocean doesn't need a storm. Sometimes it only needs an open door. Between what was and what remains, there lies the liminal.